Have you ever stood in your kitchen, popped a plate of leftovers into the microwave, and thought to yourself, easy dinner tonight, again? You're not alone. We've all done it, especially when we're tired, or when cooking a new meal just feels like too much. Maybe it's some mashed potatoes from Sunday dinner, a little spinach and rice from lunch yesterday, or that creamy pasta your grandkids didn't finish. You reheat it. It smells fine. It tastes the same. And you feel like you've just made a smart, thrifty choice. But then, hours later, your stomach feels strange. Your head is foggy. You feel bloated, tired, maybe even a little off balance. You chalk it up to age, or maybe to something else you ate. But what if the problem was the leftovers? What if the way you reheated those foods actually turned them toxic? Yes, toxic. I'm talking about everyday foods, normal, ordinary, wholesome things that most of us keep in our fridge. But when they're reheated, especially in the microwave or more than once, they can release harmful compounds that quietly harm your body from the inside out. Now, that might sound a little dramatic, but this is real. Some of these foods, when reheated the wrong way, can lead to digestive issues, increased inflammation, and long-term risks that doctors are starting to link with diseases like cancer and even dementia. And the scary part? You probably have one, or more, of these foods in your kitchen right now. This matters so much more as we get older. Our immune systems aren't as strong as they used to be. Our livers don't detox the same way. Our bodies can't bounce back from toxic exposure like they once did. What might seem like a harmless meal today, could quietly cause damage over time if we're not careful. But here's the good news. You don't need to throw out your leftovers. You don't need to stop eating your favorite foods. What you do need is to understand which foods become risky when reheated, and how to handle them the right way. Because knowledge, at this stage in life, isn't just power, it's protection. It's how we care for our bodies, our minds, and the people we love. So, in this video, you'll discover 5 common foods that can become toxic when reheated. Some of them will surprise you. Others you've probably been eating for years without a second thought. And by the end, you'll know exactly what to do to stay safe, sharp, and strong, without giving up the foods you enjoy. And one of these foods? Let's just say, if you had dinner last night, it might still be sitting in your fridge right now. Before we dive in, comment, "I'm here," if you've ever reheated leftovers in the microwave, just to play it safe and save time. We've all been there. And if you care about living wisely in your golden years, protecting your health, and staying ahead of hidden dangers that no one talks about, subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide. We share everything you need to know to age with strength, dignity, and peace of mind. Alright, let's get into it, starting with the food that's sitting in more fridges than you think, and might just be the most dangerous of all. 1. Spinach. Picture this. Helen, 74 years old, from a quiet town in Missouri, just left her doctor's office with some new advice: eat more greens. And like many folks trying to stay healthy in their golden years, she takes it seriously. She buys fresh spinach from the farmer's market, stirs it into her soups, maybe sautés it with a bit of garlic and olive oil. She's proud of herself. She's making good choices. And when she can't finish her meal, she stores the rest in the fridge, planning to warm it up for lunch the next day. It's what many of us would do, right? But here's where it gets tricky. Because while Helen thinks she's doing the right thing, feeding her body something nutritious, there's something dangerous quietly hiding in her leftovers. You see, spinach contains natural compounds called nitrates. In its fresh form, spinach is a powerhouse, rich in iron, folate, and other nutrients we absolutely need as we age. But when it's reheated, especially in a microwave or at high temperatures, those harmless nitrates can transform into nitrosamines, a group of chemicals known to be potentially carcinogenic. That's right. Something that starts off healthy can change into something harmful, just by adding heat a second time. And this is even more concerning for older adults, like Helen, or maybe like you. Why? Because as we age, our bodies naturally slow down. Our liver, the organ that filters and detoxes our system, doesn't work as quickly. Our cells are more sensitive to toxins. That means substances like nitrosamines don't just pass through us, they linger. They build up. And over time, they can raise the risk of cell damage, inflammation, and yes, even certain cancers. Now here's the part most people don't realize. There's this common belief that leafy greens are always good for you. And in most cases, they are. But the moment you reheat spinach, especially the kind that's been sitting in the fridge overnight, you could be turning a health food into a hazard without even knowing it. So, what can you do? Here's the good news, you don't need to stop eating spinach. Not at all. Just be smart about how you enjoy it. If you're making spinach soup, try making just enough for one meal, or eat the rest cold the next day. If you sauté it, store it safely, and consider tossing it into a sandwich or salad without reheating. You still get the fiber, the nutrients, the benefits, without the risk. And if you're caring for a parent or grandparent who loves their greens, this is the kind of gentle change that can protect them without making meals complicated. Now, spinach isn't the only surprise on this list. There's another food that shows up on American dinner tables just as often, and it's probably sitting in your pantry right now. 2. Potatoes. Now let me tell you about James. James is a proud Navy veteran, retired and living in sunny Florida. He's in his early 70s, still active, still sharp, and he loves his mashed potatoes. Creamy, buttery, the kind his wife used to make from scratch every Sunday. It's his comfort food. And since he lives alone now, he often makes a big batch and keeps the leftovers for a couple of days. Nothing wrong with that, right? Well, last month, James did exactly that. He had a big helping on Sunday, stored the rest wrapped in foil on the counter, then reheated them Tuesday for lunch. Not even 2 full days later. But this time, something felt off. About an hour after eating, he noticed his stomach was turning. He felt bloated. A bit nauseous. Lightheaded. He blamed the Florida heat, drank some water, laid down. But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. What James didn't realize, and what many people don't know, is that potatoes, when stored the wrong way, can be quietly dangerous. Especially for older adults. Here's the science behind it. Cooked potatoes, particularly when wrapped in foil or left out at room temperature for too long, can become the perfect breeding ground for a harmful bacterium called Clostridium botulinum. That's the same bacteria that causes botulism, a rare but serious illness that affects the nerves and muscles and can be life-threatening if left untreated. And the tricky part? Reheating those potatoes doesn't always kill the toxins. That's right. Even if they're steaming hot, the botulinum toxin, if it's there, might already be active. Especially if the potatoes were improperly stored. For someone young and healthy, their body might handle it. But for seniors, whose immune systems are naturally weaker, it can cause serious distress. Now, most folks never think twice about their leftover potatoes. They assume, hey, it's just a starch. It can't go bad that fast. But that's where the misconception lies. You see, the starch in potatoes, especially when it's moist and sealed in foil or a covered dish, creates a low-oxygen environment. And bacteria like Clostridium love those conditions. They grow quietly, without any odd smell or color, so you never suspect a thing. And when you reheat it, especially unevenly in a microwave, you could be serving yourself, or your loved one, a meal that does more harm than good. So how do you stay safe? First, cool your cooked potatoes quickly after serving. Don't let them sit on the counter for more than an hour or two. Transfer them into a shallow dish or container, uncovered at first, so they can cool evenly before sealing them up. Then, refrigerate them in airtight containers. Foil might be fine for the oven, but not for storage. Avoid wrapping them tight and leaving them out. And when it's time to reheat, make sure they're piping hot all the way through. No cold spots. No lukewarm centers. If they've been sitting for more than a couple of days, it's better to toss them than to take the risk. And one more thing, don't reheat the same portion more than once. Each time you warm it up and cool it down again, you're giving bacteria another chance to grow. It might seem like a lot to remember, but once you get into the habit, it becomes second nature. And for someone like James, or for anyone living with a chronic condition, recovering from surgery, or just trying to stay healthy in their 70s or 80s, these little changes can make a big difference. Now, if you think potatoes are a surprise, wait until you hear about the next one. It's a food that almost everyone has for breakfast, it's rich in protein, and it might just be the last thing you should ever reheat in the microwave. 3. Eggs. Now let me tell you about Susan. She's 70 years old, lives in Oregon, and she's doing her best to stay healthy. Every Sunday evening, she boils a dozen eggs and stores them neatly in her fridge. It's her go-to protein for the week, quick, easy, and filling. By Friday morning, she's down to her last egg. Still in the shell. Still looking fresh. She pops it into the microwave for a quick warm-up. And boom, it explodes. Literally. The shell cracks, the yolk bursts, and scalding egg sprays across the microwave. And part of it hits her right in the face. Scary, right? But the real danger? It wasn't just the burn. It was what happened inside the egg, before it even exploded. See, what Susan, and most people, don't realize is that when you reheat boiled or scrambled eggs, especially after they've been sitting in the fridge for days, you change their chemical structure. Inside, the proteins start to break down and release sulfur-based compounds. That's the same smell you get when eggs go bad. Like rotten sulfur. But it's not just the smell that's the issue. These sulfur compounds can irritate your stomach, make digestion more difficult, and in some studies, have been linked to oxidative stress and cell damage, things that can lead to long-term problems like inflammation, tissue breakdown, and even DNA mutations over time. For older adults, especially those with sensitive digestion or compromised immunity, this isn't just uncomfortable, it's risky. And here's another thing. If you're reheating those eggs in plastic containers, now you're adding another layer of danger. Because when plastic is exposed to high heat, especially in the microwave, it can release chemicals like BPA and phthalates, known endocrine disruptors. These are substances that can mess with your hormones, weaken your immune system, and are even suspected of contributing to certain cancers. So, what's the big misconception? That eggs are safe as long as they're cooked. We believe once they're boiled or scrambled, we can store them for days, reheat them, and everything will be fine. But the truth is, eggs are highly sensitive to reheating. The structure of their proteins changes quickly. They don't just lose nutrition, they start forming harmful byproducts. And if they're still in the shell when you microwave them, that's when you get explosions like Susan's. The steam builds up inside the shell and has nowhere to go. It turns a quick breakfast into a dangerous mess. So, here's what I want you to do instead: eat your eggs fresh whenever you can. Boil only what you plan to eat in the next day or two. If you have to store them, keep them in the fridge, but skip the microwave. Eat them cold with a sprinkle of salt, or slice them into a salad or sandwich. They're still delicious, still protein-packed, and far safer that way. And if you must reheat scrambled eggs, do it gently, on the stovetop. With a little bit of moisture, like milk or water, to help preserve texture and avoid overcooking. These small changes, they don't take much. But they can spare you from unnecessary risk. And they give your body a better chance at staying healthy as the years go by. Now, eggs are a breakfast favorite. But let's move into the next meal of the day. What about rice? It seems so simple, so harmless. But there's something about reheated rice that very few people know. And it could be putting you or someone you love in real danger. Let's talk about it. 4. Rice. Now let me tell you about Bob. Bob and his wife live out in California. They're both in their early 70s, and every Friday night is their little tradition, Chinese takeout from the same spot they've been ordering from for years. Sweet and sour chicken, a little beef broccoli, and of course, a big container of fried rice. They eat what they can, and the rest? Into the fridge it goes for later. 2 days later, Bob's hungry again. He pulls out the leftover rice, pops it in the microwave, gives it a stir, and digs in. That night, something's not right. Bob feels bloated. He's cramping. He ends up in the bathroom more times than he can count. Diarrhea, nausea, weakness, it hits him like a freight train. What Bob didn't realize is that rice, yes, plain old rice, can actually be one of the most dangerous foods to reheat if you don't store it the right way. Now that might come as a surprise. Rice is a staple in almost every home. It's in stir-fry, soups, casseroles. It's affordable, versatile, and easy to make in big batches. But here's what most people don't know, rice can carry a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. And unlike most bacteria, this one is a survivor. It can withstand high cooking temperatures, which means even after boiling, the spores can stick around. Now, that doesn't mean cooked rice is automatically dangerous. The problem starts after cooking. When the rice is left sitting out for too long, or when it cools slowly in large containers. In that warm, moist environment, the Bacillus cereus spores start to multiply, and they release toxins. Toxins that you can't see. Toxins that don't go away when you reheat the rice. That's the key. Reheating does not destroy the toxins. It may kill the bacteria, yes, but once those toxins are present, they're there to stay. And that's what happened to Bob. His rice probably looked and smelled just fine. It was warm. It tasted normal. But inside? It was loaded with heat-resistant toxins that his body simply couldn't handle. For a senior, especially one managing conditions like diabetes or heart disease, even a single episode of food poisoning can be serious. And yet, most people never think of rice as dangerous. There's this huge misconception that the fridge protects everything. That once something's cold, it's safe to reheat and eat days later. But rice is one of those foods where time and temperature matter more than you think. So how do you stay safe? Simple steps. First, cool your rice quickly. Don't just leave a giant pot on the stove to cool for hours. That's a perfect environment for bacteria to grow. Instead, transfer the rice into shallow containers, spreading it out so it cools evenly and quickly. Second, refrigerate it within an hour of cooking. Not 3 hours later. Not once the dishes are done. Do it immediately. This one small step can make a world of difference. And third, eat the rice within 24 hours. That's right. 1 day. Not 2 or 3. After that, it's time to let it go. The risks just aren't worth it. If you need to reheat it, make sure it's steaming hot all the way through. No cold spots. And if it's dry or smells a little off, throw it out. Or here's another idea, enjoy it cold. Use leftover rice in a salad with veggies and a little olive oil. It can still be delicious without the danger. So yes, rice seems harmless. But for older adults, one misstep in storage or reheating can turn a simple meal into a serious threat. And finally, we come to one more food. This one's creamy. It's cozy. It's something people turn to for comfort, especially during colder months. But when it's reheated, it can quietly inflame your brain, slow your memory, and even increase your risk of long-term cognitive decline. 5. Dairy-based sauces and creamy soups. Now picture Evelyn. She's 76, lives in Ohio, and still loves to cook. Her grandkids rave about her Alfredo pasta. It's rich, creamy, made from scratch with heavy cream, butter, a bit of garlic, and freshly grated Parmesan. She whips it up for Sunday dinner, and like most of us, saves the leftovers in the fridge. The next day, Evelyn warms up a plate for lunch. The sauce bubbles in the microwave. Smells delicious. Looks just like it did the day before. But a few hours later, something's wrong. She's not just bloated, she feels foggy. Sluggish. Her joints ache more than usual. And for a moment, she forgets where she put her reading glasses, even though they're right there on the table. Now sure, it could be aging. It could be the weather. But what if part of the problem was the way that creamy dish was reheated? See, here's what's happening beneath the surface. When you reheat dairy-based sauces, especially ones made with cream, milk, or cheese, you're not just warming the food. You're altering the chemical structure of the fats and proteins inside it. These broken-down proteins and fats can lead to something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. And AGEs aren't just scientific jargon. They're compounds that build up in the body and have been linked to inflammation, oxidative stress, and over time, even cognitive decline. Yes, brain inflammation. That means foggy memory. Slower thinking. And yes, possibly contributing to dementia if this becomes a regular habit over time. And here's the catch: when you're older, your body can't clear these toxins the way it used to. They accumulate more easily. Your digestive system becomes more sensitive, and so does your brain. But that's not what people think when they see a creamy bowl of soup or pasta. There's this warm, cozy belief that creamy dishes are comforting and safe. They remind us of family, holidays, or those cold nights when something rich and warm made everything feel better. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying that feeling. But the mistake comes when we reheat these meals over and over, especially in the microwave or at high heat. That's when those AGEs begin to form. That's when your stomach starts to feel uneasy. That's when your mind starts to slow, just enough that you start to wonder if it's age or something else. So, what's the safer choice? First, make smaller portions of creamy dishes. Enjoy them while they're fresh, when the fats and proteins are still intact and easier to digest. And if you must store leftovers, reheat them slowly on the stove, not in the microwave. Stir gently, and only do it once. Don't keep warming up the same bowl day after day. If you've already reheated it once, don't save it again. It's not worth the risk. Even better, turn your leftovers into something new. Use that creamy chicken in a cold wrap. Add it to a salad. Transform the meal so you don't have to reheat it at all. Because the truth is, these 5 foods we've talked about today, they're staples. They're common. They show up in kitchens across America every single day. But when you're older, when your body is more delicate and your mind needs protecting, the way you reheat your meals matters just as much as what you eat. It's not about fear. It's about awareness. Because food can either be medicine, or a silent source of harm. And now that you know the difference, you're already one step ahead. It's heartbreaking when you really think about it. That something as simple, as ordinary, as warming up a plate of leftovers could quietly chip away at our health. It doesn't feel fair. We spend a lifetime learning to cook, to save, to stretch a meal and not waste food. We pass down recipes. We pass down habits. And yet, some of those habits, harmless as they seem, might be working against us now, in ways we never imagined. But here's the truth that brings hope: when you understand the risks, you gain the power to protect yourself and the people you love. This isn't about living in fear. It's about living with clarity. Because when we know better, we do better. And that's how we age, not with fear or frustration, but with grace, strength, and peace of mind. So tonight, I want you to take a quiet moment in your kitchen. Open the fridge. Look at what's there. Before you pop that plate into the microwave, pause. And ask yourself, is this worth the risk? You don't need to throw everything away. You don't need to change your entire routine. But you can choose to adjust how you store, how you cool, and how you reheat your food. These are small decisions, but they add up. They protect your body. They safeguard your brain. They make sure your golden years stay golden. Because food is still joy. It's still family. It's still tradition. You just need to make those joyful meals safe, so they don't come with invisible costs. Your comfort food can still bring comfort. Your favorite dishes can still bring delight. You just need a little awareness, and a lot of care. Let's take a moment to recap what we've learned today. The 5 common foods that can become toxic when reheated are: spinach, full of nitrates that can turn into dangerous compounds. Potatoes, a risk for harboring botulinum toxins if stored improperly. Eggs, which can release sulfur compounds and cause chemical imbalances when microwaved. Rice, that may carry Bacillus cereus, with heat-resistant toxins. And creamy dairy sauces and soups, which can trigger inflammation and even affect memory. Each of these foods is a staple in American kitchens. But the way you reheat them can either support your health, or quietly harm it. So, let's talk. Have you been reheating any of these foods regularly? Have you ever felt off after a meal, but couldn't quite explain why? Drop a comment below. Let's learn from each other. Your story might help someone else avoid a silent mistake. And if this video opened your eyes, even just a little, click that like button. Not for me. For you. For your health. For the generations watching and learning from your example. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide. We're not just sharing tips. We're building a community. A place where aging is honored, where wisdom is shared, and where health is protected with heart. You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to stay strong. And you deserve to eat without fear. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. For caring. For listening. For choosing to be informed. Stay safe. Stay mindful. And as always, stay wise. I'll see you in the next video.